Picture this, May 23, 1989. While most European executives were choosing between a Mercedes-Benz W124, a BMW 5 Series, or an Audi 100, Citroën unveiled something that looked like it had driven straight out of the future. The XM wasn't just different, it was deliberately, almost defiantly, unconventional. And that, as it turned out, would be both its greatest strength and its fatal weakness. You lived through this era. You remember when Citroën wasn't playing by anyone else's rules. The DS had revolutionized the industry in 1955. The CX carried that torch through the 70s and 80s. Now, the XM was supposed to cement Citroën's position among Europe's executive elite. Designed by Bertone's Marcello Gandini, the same mind behind the Lamborghini Countach, it featured the world's first electronically controlled hydropneumatic suspension. It won European Car of the Year in 1990, crushing the Mercedes-Benz SL with nearly double the votes. Yet today, when we talk about successful 1980s executive cars, we mention the W124 Mercedes, the E32 BMW, the Audi 100, the XM. It's remembered as the car that should have succeeded, but didn't. Over 11 years, Citroën managed to sell just 333,405 units, roughly 30,000 cars per year. To put that in perspective, they'd projected 160,000 annual sales. That's not missing the target, that's missing it by 80%. So, what happened? How does a car that wins Europe's most prestigious award, that pioneered technology still impressive today, that offered genuine innovation at every turn, how does it fail so spectacularly? The answer isn't simple. It's a story of brilliant engineering undermined by cost-cutting, of French audacity colliding with German reliability expectations, of a company launching its flagship just as a global recession was about to hit. Most of all, it's the story of a car that was perhaps too advanced, too different for its own good. Section 1. The impossible mission following legends. Let's be honest about the pressure Citroën was under. The DS hadn't just been a successful car, it had redefined what was possible. From 1955 to 1975, it represented the absolute pinnacle of French engineering innovation. That hydropneumatic suspension, revolutionary. That aerodynamic body, years ahead of its time. The DS raised the bar so high that every successor would be judged not just against competitors, but against legend itself. The CX followed and, remarkably, succeeded on its own terms. From 1974 to 1991, it gave executive buyers a genuinely different option. Sure, it had its quirks, French cars always did, but it offered something the Germans couldn't match. That magic carpet ride, that uniquely comfortable, pillow-soft suspension that made long motorway journeys feel effortless. Now Citroën needed to do it again, but the world had changed. In 1984, when design work began, Citroën wasn't the independent innovator it had once been. PSA Peugeot Citroën controlled the company, and that meant sharing platforms, components, and budgets with Peugeot. The XM would share its basic structure with the Peugeot 605. Development costs had to be justified. Every franc spent had to be accounted for. The executive car market itself was transforming. In 1989, this segment represented 14.2% of the European market, a substantial prize. But buyers were increasingly prioritizing German precision engineering over French individuality. Mercedes, BMW, and Audi had global distribution networks and reputations for rock-solid reliability. Citroën had neither. Even worse, the market was shifting away from ride comfort, Citroën's specialty, toward handling dynamics and performance. The question wasn't whether the XM would be different. The question was whether being different would be enough. Section 2. The promise. What made it special? When you first saw the XM, you knew immediately it wasn't trying to be a French Mercedes. That angular Bertone styling with its razor-sharp lines and massive glass area looked like nothing else on the road. Those impossibly slim headlights, that kinked window line, that distinctive C-pillar treatment. It wasn't beautiful in a conventional sense, it was challenging, intellectual, geometric. Some loved it, others hated it, nobody was indifferent. But the real innovation lived beneath that controversial skin. The hydropneumatic suspension system represented a genuine technological leap forward. Previous Citroën hydropneumatic setups were brilliant but purely mechanical. The XM system added electronic control with an army of sensors monitoring steering input, braking force, speed, and body movement. It could firm up the suspension in corners, soften it on rough roads, adjust ride height on the fly. When it worked, and that's a crucial qualifier we'll return to, it was genuinely magical. You'd load half a ton of luggage in the boot, and the car would simply levitate back to its proper ride height. The handling was sharp when you wanted it, pillowy soft when you didn't. The interior was equally ambitious. Rear passengers sat higher than those in front, ensuring excellent visibility, crucial for a car destined for French government service. A secondary interior rear window meant that when you opened the large hatchback, back seat passengers wouldn't feel the cold draft. The message center used pixel-based displays to communicate with the driver. The whole package felt futuristic, sophisticated, and distinctly French. Engine options ranged from a basic 2.0-litre carbureted four-cylinder producing 115 horsepower to the range-topping 3.0-litre PRV V6 with 170 horsepower, the first V6 in a Citroën since the Maserati-powered SM ended production in the mid-70s. Later, a turbocharged version of that V6 would produce nearly 200 horsepower, making it the fastest Citroën ever built at that point. Diesel options included 2.1-litre and 2.5-litre turbo diesels, popular choices in European markets. The XM achieved a drag coefficient of 0.28, genuinely impressive for 1989. It featured partial galvanization to prevent the rust that had plagued the CX. It offered genuinely class-leading interior space. On paper, it had everything needed to succeed. Section 3. The compromise where brilliance met bean counting. Here's where the story gets painful. You know this part if you ever owned one of those early XMs. Citroën was in financial difficulty when the XM was being developed. PSA needed to control costs. So decisions were made, decisions that would haunt the XM throughout its life. The most catastrophic? Electrical connectors. To save money, Citroën used cheap multi-point grounding blocks in the engine bay and throughout the car. These corroded quickly, especially the ones mounted in the engine compartment where they were exposed to heat, moisture, and road salt. When they corroded, the XM's sophisticated electronic systems went haywire. The hydropneumatic suspension, dependent on all those sensors communicating properly, would malfunction. Suddenly, that magic carpet ride became harsh and bumpy. Warning lights would illuminate for no apparent reason. The message center that was supposed to diagnose problems developed problems of its own. This wasn't a minor inconvenience. This was the car's entire electronic nervous system failing because someone decided to save a few francs per car on proper connectors. The early cars, 1989 and 1990 models especially, earned a reputation for electrical gremlins that would follow the XM forever. Even after Citroën fixed the problem in 1991, switching to more robust screw terminals bolted directly through the bodywork, the damage to the car's reputation was done. Owners reported failed electric window regulators, malfunctioning central locking, temperamental heater motors, and door locks that played up. The dashboard's LED displays developed missing pixels. The ZF4 HP18 automatic transmission, shared with the Saab 9000, Alfa Romeo 164, and others, proved fragile if automatic transmission fluid changes were neglected, and they frequently were, because Citroën dealers weren't always meticulous about maintenance schedules. You remember what happened when these problems became known. Sales, strong during those first 18 months, began to decline. By the second half of the 90s, they were in sharp decline. Word spreads quickly in the executive car market. When your competitors are Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Audi brands whose reputations were built on reliability, You cannot afford electrical problems. The XM could offer all the innovation in the world, but if it left owners stranded or spent too much time in the shop, executives would choose the boring but reliable German option every time. Section 4. The timing launching into a recession. The XM went on sale in France immediately after its May 1989 launch, reaching the UK market by October. For about 18 months, sales were actually decent. The car won European Car of the Year. It collected 14 additional major awards within its first year. Citroen's target of 450 cars per day, 160,000 annually, looked optimistic but perhaps achievable. Then the global recession hit. In the UK alone, new car registrations fell from over 2.3 million in 1989 to less than 1.6 million in 1991, a drop of more than 30% in just 2 years. Across Europe, luxury car sales collapsed. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just as the XM's electrical problems were becoming known, the bottom fell out of the market. But here's the thing. Even without the recession, the XM faced structural problems. It cost nearly 50% more than the CX it replaced. The base XM was substantially more expensive than comparable German alternatives. In the US market, where CX Auto imported the car for Citroën loyalists, the XM cost 40% more than the CX Prestige they'd previously imported, over $50,000. Only a handful sold before tougher emission standards ended imports in 1997. The XM also lacked the worldwide distribution network of its German competitors. Mercedes, BMW, and Audi had dealers everywhere, service centers you could count on, and parts availability that Citroën simply couldn't match outside France. When an XM broke down in rural England or Scotland, getting it properly repaired was a challenge. German cars might cost more, but they came with peace of mind. Section 5. The evolution trying to fix it. Citroën didn't give up. They knew the electrical problems were killing them, so the 1994 facelift brought much higher quality electrics, revised electronics, improved interior materials, and better switchgear. These Series 2 cars were genuinely more reliable. The suspension was redesigned to reduce roll, pitch, and dive. A passive rear steering system, similar to that on the Citroën Xantia, sharpened steering response. Power output on the turbocharged engines increased. There were even Series 1.5 cars 1992 and 93 models that received some improvements before the full facelift. These are considered by many enthusiasts to offer the best compromise, the purer styling of the early cars with improved reliability. The 1997 facelift brought further refinements. The Hydractive 2 suspension used more sophisticated control logic. Interior quality improved again. Citroën moved the double chevron logo to the center of the grille and made it larger. They added a lower rear spoiler, color-coded the panel between windscreen and bonnet, and revised the badge fonts. But by then, it was too late. Sales never recovered. The car's reputation was established. When buyers considered executive cars, they thought Mercedes reliability, or BMW handling, or Audi quality. They didn't think Citroën innovation, they thought Citroën electrical problems. Fair or not, accurate or not for the later cars, that perception stuck. The market itself was moving away from volume manufacturer executive cars. By 1998, Ford pulled the Scorpio from the European market. Opel and Vauxhall would exit the segment in 2003. Buyers increasingly wanted premium badges or nothing. A Citroën, no matter how innovative, would always be a French Ford to many British and German buyers. Only the French appreciated what it was trying to be. Section 6. The legacy, what it means today. Production ended in 2000. Total sales, 333,405 units over 11 years, including just 31,000, and 35 Julius-built estate models. Compare that to the DS's nearly 1.5 million units, or even the CX's more modest but respectable sales, and the XM looks like a commercial failure. The replacement, the Citroën C6, wouldn't arrive until late 2005. It sold even fewer units, proving that Citroën's struggle in the executive segment wasn't unique to the XM. The market had simply moved beyond them. In 2021, Citroën gave up the XM name entirely, ceding it to BMW for their XM SUV, a final insult to a car that deserved better. But here's the interesting part. Today, enthusiasts recognize what the XM was trying to be. Those early electrical problems? Mostly fixable. Any surviving XM has likely had the grounding blocks properly replaced. The suspension, once mysterious, is now well understood by specialists. Parts availability from the enthusiast community has improved. The cars are cheap, you can still find running examples for under £2,000. More importantly, people finally appreciate the XM's uniqueness. That Bertone styling has aged remarkably well. The interior space remains impressive. When the hydropneumatic suspension works properly, it's still a revelation. The XM represents something we've largely lost in modern car design. Genuine, unapologetic individuality. It wasn't trying to be a French BMW, it was trying to be the best Citroën possible. The car's biggest weakness being too advanced, too different is now seen by many as its greatest strength. In a world of safe, focus group-approved designs, the XM dared to be radical. It failed commercially, yes, but it failed while reaching for something ambitious, something genuinely innovative. That's far more admirable than succeeding with conservative mediocrity. So why did the Citroën XM fail? There's no single answer. Cost-cutting decisions undermined brilliant engineering. Launch timing was catastrophically poor, just months before a global recession. The styling alienated conservative buyers. The price was too high. Distribution and service networks couldn't match German competitors. Market trends moved away from ride comfort toward handling and premium badges. Take your pick, they all contributed. But the fundamental issue runs deeper. The XM failed because it demanded that buyers appreciate innovation over reliability, individuality over conformity, French sophistication over German solidity. In 1989, launching a radically styled car with groundbreaking but complex technology was a gamble. When that technology proved fragile and word spread quickly, the gamble failed. Yet I'd argue the XM wasn't too advanced for its time, it was too advanced for its budget. Given proper development time and money for quality components, the hydropneumatic suspension and electronic systems could have been reliable from day one. The Bertone styling would still have been controversial, but reliability would have won over skeptics. Instead, Citroën launched a car with the ambitions of a flagship but the budget of a mid-size sedan. That contradiction doomed it. Today, the few remaining XMs serve as rolling reminders of what might have been. They represent the last time Citroën truly reached for greatness in the executive segment. The last time a French manufacturer dared to challenge the Germans on genuinely different terms. Whether that makes the XM a noble failure or a cautionary tale depends on your perspective. For those of us who remember when Citroën wasn't playing it safe, when they built cars that divided opinion because they were genuinely trying something new for us, the XM represents something important. It reminds us that sometimes the most interesting failures teach us more than safe successes. If you owned an XM, or worked on one, or simply remember seeing them on the roads before they vanished, share your experiences in the comments. Did you love the styling or hate it? Did you deal with those electrical gremlins, or were you lucky enough to get a reliable example? And for those too young to remember, would you take a chance on an XM today? Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into automotive history's most fascinating stories. Hit that like button if you appreciate cars that dared to be different. And remember, sometimes the cars we remember most fondly aren't the ones that sold best. They're the ones that tried hardest to move the industry forward. Thank you for watching.